Before you continue listening, pause for just a moment. Place your hand gently over your heart and take one slow, calming breath. Allow yourself to become completely present, because what you are about to hear is more than a series of words. It may be the message your soul has been quietly waiting to receive. If this message has reached you today, don't brush it aside as mere coincidence. Some truths reveal themselves only when we are emotionally ready to understand them. There is a reason your emotions have felt more intense recently. There is a reason certain memories continue returning when you least expect them. Somewhere, someone has been carrying your name in silence, holding thoughts they have never found the courage to speak aloud. Now the universe is quietly arranging the circumstances for a meaningful encounter. Someone important is preparing to enter your life with something they can no longer keep hidden. Take another slow, deep breath before you continue, because this message is not meant to feel ordinary. If it has found you today, perhaps it is because your heart is finally ready to receive what it has been waiting for. There is someone, whether they are still in your life or someone from your past, who thinks about you far more often than you could ever imagine. They may have stayed silent. They may have created distance between the two of you. On the surface, it may have seemed as though they had moved on without ever looking back. Yet beneath that silence, something has been changing. A quiet transformation has been unfolding inside them, one they can no longer ignore. Very soon, this person will find their way back to you. It will not happen by accident, nor will it be an ordinary conversation or a simple reunion. They are coming because the weight of what they have been carrying has become too heavy to bear alone. There is a truth they have kept locked inside themselves, and now they feel compelled to finally share it with you. What they are about to reveal may genuinely surprise you. This is one reason this meeting feels impossible to avoid. Some connections seem to exist beyond reason. Time may pass, distance may grow, and silence may last for months or even years. Yet certain emotional bonds refuse to disappear. They remain quietly alive beneath the surface, untouched by pride, misunderstandings, or physical separation. Perhaps you have experienced unusual moments recently. Thoughts of this person suddenly appeared in your mind without any obvious reason. You unexpectedly heard their name during a conversation. Maybe they appeared in your dreams with remarkable clarity, or perhaps waves of emotion seemed to arrive without explanation, leaving you wondering where those feelings came from. Many people dismiss experiences like these as simple coincidences. Yet sometimes they feel like gentle reminders that certain emotional connections continue to exist, even when there has been no contact. It can feel as though an invisible thread still connects two people whose paths have drifted apart, quietly drawing their thoughts toward one another despite the silence between them. Whether you see these experiences as intuition, meaningful coincidence, or simply the mind returning to an unfinished chapter, they often carry a powerful emotional weight. When those feelings continue returning again and again, they naturally leave us wondering whether something important is still waiting to happen. Long before they considered reaching out, they did everything they could to bury these emotions. They kept themselves busy. They poured their energy into distractions. They convinced themselves they had already let go and that life had moved forward. But whenever everything became quiet, especially late at night, one thought continued returning. You. No matter how hard they tried to silence it, your memory always found its way back into their mind. Eventually, emotions left unspoken created a pressure that demanded to be released. That is why this meeting feels as though it has been building for a very long time. From the outside, they may appear completely fine. Perhaps they seem confident, successful, or even genuinely happy. But appearances rarely reveal what is happening beneath the surface. Inside, they have been caught in an emotional struggle that very few people around them would ever notice. They replay the moments the two of you shared over and over in their mind. They remember your voice, your expressions, and conversations that once seemed ordinary, but now carry a much deeper meaning. Small details they barely noticed before have become impossible to forget. Questions continue circling through their thoughts. Why do these feelings still remain? Why have I never truly moved on? Why has no one else created the same connection? Those questions have slowly led them toward a realization they never expected. The answer is not an easy one because it forces them to acknowledge something they spent a long time trying to avoid. You meant far more to them than they were ever willing to admit. Even more difficult is recognizing that what happened between the two of you was not simply the result of bad timing or unfortunate circumstances. Deep inside, they are beginning to understand that they played a significant role in creating the distance between you. They now realize they never fully appreciated the connection while they still had the opportunity, and that realization carries a weight they can no longer ignore. You may naturally wonder if they truly feel all of this. Why did they remain silent for so long? The answer is far more complicated than simply not caring. Fear has been the biggest obstacle standing between them and the truth. They were afraid of rejection. They were afraid of finding out that your life had continued moving forward without them. They feared your confidence, your independence, and the possibility that you had reached a place where you no longer needed their presence. More than anything, they were afraid of facing the decisions they wish they could take back. Staying silent seemed easier than opening themselves up to a difficult and honest conversation. As long as they kept everything hidden, they could avoid confronting the consequences of their own choices. But silence carries its own burden. With every passing day they chose not to reach out. The truth they kept buried became even louder inside them. What once felt like a way to protect themselves slowly became a source of emotional fatigue. Eventually, avoiding the conversation became more painful than actually having it. That was the moment they understood that silence could no longer provide the comfort or peace they had been searching for. Recently, something happened that completely changed the way they viewed everything. It may have appeared to be a simple, ordinary moment. Maybe they saw you smiling. Maybe they heard something about your life. Maybe they encountered a familiar reminder of the past. Or perhaps they were surrounded by people yet still felt a deep sense of loneliness inside. Whatever the reason was, it touched a place within them that they could no longer ignore. In that moment, one thought became impossible to escape. If I never tell my truth, I will carry this regret with me for the rest of my life. That realization did not come from a temporary emotion or a sudden impulse. It came from a much deeper place within them, a quiet understanding that continuing to hide what they felt was no longer something they could do. This is why this conversation may feel so unexpected. They are not returning simply to exchange casual words or have a simple conversation about the past. They are not coming only to ask how you have been. They are coming because there are things they left unsaid for far too long. They want to express the emotions they hid behind their pride. They want to acknowledge the regrets they carried silently. They want to speak about the feelings they convinced themselves would eventually disappear, yet somehow never did. For a long time, you may have believed they were distant, unaffected, or completely detached from everything that happened between you. But the reality may have been very different. They cared much more deeply than they ever allowed you to see. Their emotions were stronger than their actions revealed. So much of what they felt remained hidden behind fear, hesitation, and their inability to open their heart completely. Understanding this may completely change the way you look at the silence that existed between you. The words they have been holding inside are not words they have easily shared with anyone else. They have imagined this conversation countless times in their mind, trying to figure out how to explain everything they have carried for so long. And when they finally stand in front of you, what they reveal will not only be about what happened in the past, it will be about the honesty they wished they had the courage to express from the very beginning. They have replayed this moment more times than they could ever count. Inside their mind, this conversation has happened again and again. They have imagined every possible reaction, your expression, your silence, your questions, even the possibility that you may simply choose to walk away. No matter how many times they have prepared themselves for this moment, they still cannot know what will happen when reality finally arrives. But one thing has become completely clear. They can no longer continue pretending. Whatever the result may be, they know they have to finally speak honestly. Even if telling the truth means risking the very thing they still hope to have, they would rather face uncertainty than continue living behind a wall of silence. The words they have wanted to say are simple, yet they carry enormous weight. I was wrong. I did not treat what we had in the way I should have. I did not fully understand how to love you in the way you truly deserved. For someone who has spent so much time protecting their pride, admitting these words can feel more difficult than losing the relationship itself. Breaking down those emotional defenses requires a level of vulnerability they have avoided for a very long time. Sometimes distance reveals what closeness was unable to show. When someone is always present in our life, it can become easy to overlook the value they bring. Only when they are no longer there does their absence become impossible to ignore. And that is exactly what has been happening within them. Time has given them a different perspective. They have started recognizing the qualities in you that they once failed to appreciate. Your calm energy created a sense of comfort and peace they did not fully understand at the time. Your loyalty was never something temporary. It was real and genuine. Your kindness was never something you performed for attention. Your care came from a place of honesty and sincerity. As they continued living their life, they began comparing new experiences and new connections to what they once shared with you. And again, they noticed that something felt different, something felt incomplete. Not because other people were not valuable, but because the bond they shared with you carried a depth they never truly recognized until it was gone. Now they are beginning to understand that what existed between you was not something ordinary. It wasn't just another relationship or a passing chapter in their life. It was the kind of rare connection that many people spend years hoping to experience, yet never truly find. As much as they desire to see you again, they are also deeply afraid of what comes after that moment. Because once the truth is finally spoken, there is no way to return to the comfort of silence. Everything changes when honesty finally enters the space between two people. They understand they are taking a risk. They may experience disappointment. They may face rejection. They may discover that you have already moved forward and created a life without them. They may even receive the closure they secretly feared all along. But despite all of those possibilities, they have come to understand something even more painful. Living with unanswered questions and carrying the weight of lifelong regret feels much heavier than facing whatever response you choose to give. So instead of hiding behind the safety of silence, they are choosing to be brave. Even though courage does not come with any promises or guarantees, before this meeting happens, there is something important you need to remember. This message is not only about their emotional journey. It is also about yours. You are not the same person you were before. You have changed. You have grown through experiences that once tested your strength and challenged your heart. You have learned lessons that were not always easy. You have become stronger, wiser, and more emotionally balanced than you were in the past. Because of that growth, do not enter this meeting from a place of expectation or emotional attachment. Enter it with awareness and clarity. Allow yourself to truly listen, but do not let beautiful words alone completely capture your heart. Pay attention to consistency. Notice their actions. Observe whether the way they behave matches the things they are saying. Words can create hope. But real and lasting change is always revealed through actions. Honesty without accountability does not hold much meaning. True growth and genuine transformation are things that can be witnessed, not simply promised. Trust what you see just as much as what you hear. When this encounter finally happens, you may notice that something feels different from every interaction you have experienced with them before. Time may appear to slow down. The sounds around you may seem to disappear into the background. There may be a strange feeling of familiarity that is difficult to explain, almost as though your heart recognizes something before your mind has the chance to understand it. Whether you describe that feeling as intuition, emotional memory, or simply the importance of reconnecting with someone who once held a meaningful place in your life, the moment may carry a powerful emotional presence. You may sense that this is not just an ordinary conversation. It may feel like the ending of one chapter and the beginning of another, where the truths that remained hidden for so long finally have the opportunity to come into the open. What happens after that moment will not depend only on the words that are exchanged. It will also depend on the choices both of you make once the silence has finally been broken. When the moment arrives, you may feel the energy of the encounter before either of you says a single word. The atmosphere may feel heavier than you expected, filled with emotion, anticipation, and everything that has remained unspoken for such a long time. There may be moments of silence, meaningful eye contact, and pauses where nothing needs to be said because the emotions themselves communicate what words cannot. Whether you view this encounter as destiny, perfect timing, or simply the natural result of emotions that were never fully resolved, it carries significance. Its purpose may not necessarily be to bring two people back together. Its purpose is to bring truth into the open. Sometimes honesty creates the possibility of a new beginning. Other times, it provides the closure that two hearts have been silently searching for. Either way, this meeting exists to reveal what has remained hidden beneath the surface. After carrying these emotions for such a long time, there is one confession they can no longer continue avoiding. They never truly stopped loving you. They tried everything possible to convince themselves that they had moved on. They immersed themselves in work, new habits, different distractions, and perhaps even new relationships. They believed that enough time would eventually erase what they felt. But genuine emotions rarely disappear simply because we try to force them away. Instead, they remain quietly beneath the surface, waiting until the heart becomes still enough to acknowledge them again. Eventually, pretending becomes more exhausting than accepting the truth. Now they are ready to admit what they have denied for so long. Not because they know exactly how everything will unfold, not because they are certain of the result, but because they can no longer continue living as though those feelings never existed. Whatever happens after this conversation, life will not remain exactly the same. Perhaps it becomes the beginning of a completely new chapter built on honesty, maturity, and deeper understanding. Perhaps it becomes the conversation that finally allows both of you to move forward without carrying unanswered questions. Either possibility holds its own meaning because unfinished stories often continue living inside the heart. When the truth is finally expressed, something inside begins to shift. The confusion starts to fade, slowly replaced by a sense of peace that only honesty can bring. Sometimes healing comes through reunion. Sometimes it comes through acceptance, and sometimes it arrives through understanding. Both outcomes can carry their own meaning and importance. If this conversation finally happens, give them the space to express everything they have been holding inside for such a long time. Do not rush to interrupt, judge, or immediately form conclusions before hearing the complete story. Allow their entire truth to come forward before deciding what you truly feel about it. Listen carefully, not only to the words they choose, but also to the sincerity, emotion, and intention behind those words. Sometimes what a person struggles to say reveals more than the sentences themselves. When it becomes your moment to respond, answer from a place of peace and awareness rather than from a sudden emotional reaction. Your calmness carries more strength than a response created by anger, hurt, or confusion. Take whatever time you need to understand what feels right for you. Choose what protects your peace, respects your boundaries, and honors the person you have grown into. Above everything else, remember this one important truth. You are not standing in this moment because life is trying to punish you or because you are being placed through another difficult test. You are here because you are being offered something that many people spend years searching for. You are being offered the truth. Whether that truth brings two people back together, creates a moment of recognition, provides emotional closure, or leads you toward a completely different direction, it gives you something incredibly valuable. It gives you certainty. You made it through the silence that once made you question everything. You survived the moments when you wondered why things happened the way they did. You carried yourself through disappointment, confusion, and emotional pain. You continued moving forward, You learned lessons from experiences that once felt impossible to overcome. You healed parts of yourself that were wounded. You discovered strength that you may not have known existed within you. Never underestimate the growth that has happened inside you. Never forget how far you have come. Whatever happens from this point forward, remember that the strength that brought you here will continue guiding you. Before this message reaches its end, take a quiet moment and ask yourself a simple question. What did these words awaken within you? Did they create a feeling of hope? Did they bring you a sense of peace? Did they encourage you to reflect on your journey? Or perhaps they gave you a kind of clarity that you have been searching for but could not find before. Sometimes life does not reveal answers because it wants to bring someone back into our world. Sometimes the answers we receive are not meant to rebuild something that ended. Sometimes they arrive to reconnect us with ourselves. They come to remind us of the person we were before disappointment changed us, before unanswered questions consumed our thoughts, and before emotional pain made us forget our own value. Many people believe that clarity can only come when another person explains their actions, admits their feelings, or finally gives the answers we wanted to hear. But often, the deepest clarity does not come from another person. It comes from within. It arrives when you recognize your own worth. It appears when you understand your own strength. It becomes visible when you finally see the lessons hidden inside the experiences that once caused you the most pain. If you have spent months or even years wondering why someone entered your life, why they disappeared, or why certain emotions still remain inside your heart, remember something important. Not every meaningful connection is created to end in reunion. Some connections enter our lives to awaken something within us. They challenge us to grow. They encourage us to heal. They reveal parts of ourselves that may have remained hidden if we had never experienced that particular journey. Even painful relationships can become powerful teachers when we stop viewing them only as losses and begin seeing them as opportunities for personal transformation. Never doubt the reality of what your heart experienced. If you felt a deep connection with someone, those emotions were genuine because they were genuine to you. Your feelings do not become fake simply because circumstances changed. They do not become meaningless because the relationship did not develop in the way you once imagined. A feeling can be real even when the future remains uncertain. The importance of your love is not measured by whether someone decided to stay. The value of your love is defined by the honesty, kindness, and sincerity with which you offered it. Never convince yourself that you created an illusion just because something ended differently than you hoped. Many people look back after heartbreak and begin questioning their own memories. They tell themselves they were foolish. They believe they misunderstood every sign. They assume they cared more than they should have. But allowing yourself to feel deeply is not a weakness. It is proof that you were brave enough to be emotionally present. It shows that you allowed yourself to experience connection instead of hiding behind fear. That kind of openness is something many people struggle to achieve.